Welcome to Study Garage, and this is my first attempt at making a LEGO Speed Champions. And this is my refined attempt at making a LEGO Speed Champion. And having them both here, I just wanted to let you know why this one makes this one very insecure. All right, so to give you guys some context on what these two cars are, these are my two and only attempts ever at building LEGO Speed Champion cars. This is the first one. It's dubbed the Type W, I want to say 12? I could be making that up. But then this one is yet to be named, but is by far superior to that guy. Is that the predecessor? You know, the guy before. I always have this issue. Also, these cars were built for two separate purposes. This one was built way long ago for a certain reason, and this one was built recently for a new reason. And let me tell you that this one by far beats this one in its own ways, but it even beats the old Type W12, whatever it may be, at its own game, bro. This is why this guy is a little ashamed to go about in public. I'm sorry. But anyway, before we get into how the new kid on the block put the Type 8W to shame, and yes, I just checked the name, Type 8W, I want to show you guys the incredible upgrades in design and building techniques that we had from the Type 8W to this new kid on the block. Was that an adequate taste of their forms and figures? So as you can tell, these two cars are many quarter miles apart. While I'll say that this one is more like an actual Speed Champions car to be blending in with all of the other Speed Champions, I would say this one actually compares more to like a movie prop, where it was built to do one function really good in camera, but outside of that is lacking in a lot of ways. So I figured I'd go through these two. We'll look at the fronts, sides, and backs real quick, and I'll show you some of the major upgrades from this car to this car, so everyone understands why there were so many corners cut on this car. I will admit to you now that this car was made for the SG Raceway time trials. I built this car as our answer to that competition, as in, let's see what SG Raceway can come up with and what kind of time can we put up on the board. But there is a very shocking, juicy twist that comes with this car that now makes this car kind of irrelevant in that quest. So before we get to that, let's get into these designs. And so starting up in the front of the cars, I would say that the Type 8W over here isn't weird looking, but at the same time, it is a very awkward shape. I had bought a Supra and then built this entire car with no real extra pieces, but this one, the new guy on the other hand, is all black pieces. I usually build with black pieces, and I had any piece that I could think of at my disposal, and especially these light pieces. This is a new light design that I came up with, and by far, I would say that this new car puts the old Type 8W to shame with the styling up in the front. And if we look at them, both are mid-engine cars, and I feel like the new car takes on that shape way better up front. This Type 8W's hood and front end is so tall and so kind of like a normal front end sedan's look that it is kind of awkward. It's so big, it's so in your face. But with the new guy, it is this very sleek, low front end. Continuing to the sides of these cars and the side profiles specifically, I think it's easy to tell that this guy on the right has so much more of a purpose-built design, whereas this guy on the left, there are a lot of places like here and here where it's just kind of like you can tell that the car was built, you know, for a purpose without much thought outside of that. Now, silhouette-wise, I ain't gonna lie, I like the shape of this car. The whole silhouette, you're kind of like up in the front. This is where the engine would be. It's kind of like a 720, that long body, right? Speaking of long car, let me add that this car is way longer than the new guy, but they do in fact have the same exact length wheelbase. But the new guy, my guy, looks so much better from every angle, especially on the side, because you don't have these weird holes and the weird transparent piece placement and all of these like kind of body places where that's just air resistance right there. What was I even thinking? Bro, what are you thinking? But with the new guy, you can tell that yes, couple studs, couple of places where it's like a gap, you can see through it, but functional doors. No function, no door, no bueno. But outside of that, yes, I'll give this guy's credit where it's due with this silhouette, but by far, this car is just in another league of its own. And looking at both tail ends, it is easy to see how the newbie is so much more exotic than the OG. But moving on from design, there is one more factor that might help me explain the entire giant blunder between these two cars, and that is their weight. Now, like I explained, this car was built to be the fastest we could make for SG Raceway at the time. So I don't remember the weight of this car, but it was weighed in at one time, but this car has never been weighed at all. So it'll be really cool to see the weight difference between the two. First order of business, let's turn this bad boy on. There we go. Tis on and warmed up. Come here, Type 8W. Line her up. 154. Nice little number for a Speed Champions. But let's see where the new guy's at. 145. Wait. Wasn't that 154? That was 145. 154, bro. Bro, we shaved 9 ounces from this car to this car. That makes me even more confused because check this out. Here is the massive plot twist with these two cars. Like I said before, the Type 8W was built to be an SG Raceway time trial car. And when I built this car, the Mercedes AMG 1 was the fastest car on the SG Raceway at the time. So I took the design cues of the length of the wheelbase and the style of wheel that is used. Check out the Mercedes, there's still sand on it from racing. But, so these two cars have the same wheelbase length and the same tires and even the same wheel covers because I wanted to have a shot at creating the fastest car. But this is where my downfall started because while the Type 8W weighs 154 grams, the Mercedes AMG 1 weighs 173 grams. So while I was building the Type 8W, I started filling that interior space with more pieces, trying to get the weight up on this car because I thought if I got the weight up, it'll have the momentum to roll down that ramp the fastest and maybe I'll get the top slot. In the end though, the Type 8W only ended up running a 3.21, while the Mercedes AMG 1 ran a 3.08. So back then I was disappointed that we didn't get the fastest spot, but I was happy that we had a contender and our very own design Speed Champion. But that did not hold us back because here we are with the newbie, and he came in at 145 grams lighter than the Type 8W and the Mercedes AMG 1. And yet, at 145 grams, this car ended up running a 2.56, making this guy the fastest speed champion on the entire raceway ever. Bro, it didn't just beat the Type 8W at its own game, but it took the title of the fastest speed champion on the raceway, which absolutely blew my mind. But even after all of those upgrades, after all of those trials that we overcame and all that, there's just one thing, one stupid little thing we couldn't nail. I will now use this Dominic Toretto to exemplify what I mean. Thank you, little buddy. We'll get him next time, Dominic. We'll get him next time.